It's 11 p.m. and these are the headlines. On the third day of the electoral campaign, candidates and their representatives continue expounding their programs, holding several meetings across the country. The roundup of their activities coming up shortly. A committed society is a necessary ingredient that would contribute to the success of this crucial electoral event. Our teams headed to Burj Al Kifan to witness the tangible role of associations in this period. Morocco is still suffering from crises, social and economic ones that keep affecting the citizens' daily life, while the democratic labor organizations are calling for urgent reforms in the country. A joyful welcome for the champion Imam Khalif in the Tiarj province took place yesterday's night. A large crowd gathered to celebrate her return. The heartwarming atmosphere was spotted by our cameras, and we will take a look at it by the end of this edition. Welcome back, everyone. On the third day of the electoral campaign of the presidential elections, several meetings across the country provinces were held. The candidates and their representatives are highlighting the major points shaping their programs. It also the occasion to explain to the citizen the need to participate in such crucial event. The gist of the activities with Najah Tayar.
The election campaign for the presidential elections continues for the third day on roll, and the three candidates are actively engaging in local meetings, presenting their programs. This Saturday, Abdelali Hassan Sharif, the candidate for the Movement of Society for Peace, headed to Skikda province, where he prayed for the souls of the martyrs of August 20th, 1955 attacks. And then he met the citizens in the middle of the city. Later on, he held a community meeting in Bin al-Widan, emphasizing the necessity to achieve social justice by his program Forza, saying that it will serve the youth, the retired, the employees, the war veterans, the women, and everyone. He also spoke about Algeria's numerous resources in all sectors, mentioning that his program aims to enhance the agricultural and industrial potential of each and every province and exploit it for the benefit of all citizens. For his part, the candidate for the Socialist Forces Front, Aouchish Youssef, he held a local meeting in Burj Bariri province, where he initiated his speech to the inhabitants by saying that the future is for the youth, who are the key for the change. A speech in which he also presented his projects and suggestions mostly related to the social sphere, confirming that the change is possible, and that is by voting his name, since he has a promising project which is going to be dedicated to the democratic public debate in all sectors, also to the political debate and public freedoms. He also mentioned that one of his program's main goals is to restore the citizens' dignity and also, and most importantly, to improve their purchasing power. Shifting focus to Ibrahim Red, the campaign manager of the independent candidate Abdelmajid Tebboune. Ibrahim Red held meetings at the level of local coordinations in Bouira, Burj Bariri, and Stif provinces, where he reaffirmed that the independent candidate Abdelmajid Tebboune is a person of dedication and a living example of fulfilling promises, since he fulfilled and realized a lot of promises and commitments that he made. Mered also outlined the electoral program that is based on enhancing the gains achieved and further embodying the policy of social support, and that is to improve the financial situation of the country by enhancing export and exploiting the potentials that Algeria has, and to make of it a greater regional power, which has been already realized.
cooperation, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, and amid a ceremony held at the Angolan Embassy in Algiers to mark the 44th anniversary of the Southern African Development Community. The Minister took the floor on the occasion and recalled the historic ties that bind Algeria to all the countries of the region, ties that come from the historical legacy of the fight against colonialism and apartheid, and their total adherence to the principles of African Union. Attaf took the opportunity to reiterate the commitment of Algeria and its African brothers within this community to the just causes of decolonization and the right of peoples to self-determination, as in the case of the Palestinian and Western Sahara causes.
Today's celebration is also an occasion to congratulate SADC on its achievements and distinctive milestones in all fields and areas alike that it has reached. I sincerely believe that the other 4 African regional blocs have a lot to learn from SADC. We have a lot to learn from SADC in terms of ensuring political stability and regional peace and security. We have a lot to learn from SADC in terms of promoting genuine economic cooperation and integration. And we have a lot to learn from SADC in terms of preserving excellent and harmonious political relations among its member states based on shared legitimate objectives, ambitions, and aspirations. With these achievements that SADC can rightfully take pride of, I conclude my remarks by wishing a happy 44th anniversary to the organization of SADC and to all its member states. May this organization go from strength to strength to fulfill the legitimate aspirations of the region and those of our beloved continent for a peaceful, prosperous, integrated, and united Africa. Algeria has always felt itself as an integral part of the SADC broad family, and therefore cannot but join you today in marking and celebrating this solemn occasion with you. In doing so, we also celebrate the fact that there is not a single cause of freedom that has not mobilized Algeria's support with that of fellow Africans from the SADC family. There is not a single case of denial of the right of people to self-determination that has not brought us all together in defense of the oppressed against the oppressor. And last but not least, there is not a single situation of an imposed domination or an inflicted subjugation, be it in Africa or outside Africa, that has not united our efforts on the side of those who resist it and those who make the needed sacrifices to bring it to an end. This is particularly the case for the Palestinian cause, which is nowadays undergoing one of the most horrible phases of its history, in view of the genocidal war being perpetrated openly and brazenly by the Israeli occupying power in Gaza for over 10 months. Our collective solidarity has always been constant towards our brothers and sisters in Western Sahara, in the last colony in Africa, in which is still being denied a right, an inalienable right to self-determination.
Back to the presidential elections, civil society actors, for their part, are actively engaged in contributing effectively to the success of this major electoral event. A group of associations in Burj Al Kifan municipality is keen to raise awareness among citizens. Coverage of Rauf Hamoush taken up by Rania Bahri.
It is with a decisive step that Khalid and his colleagues from the associative movement head to the local cafe for a very special mission to raise awareness among their fellow citizens about the imperative to participate in the next presidential elections.
It's a real duty for each citizen, and we must all go and vote because it is a national duty. We need to vote to accomplish what the president must do for our country. We must vote to choose also the right person.
In the cafes or even on the avenue or in the public square, the associative movement takes its task very seriously, aware of the importance from the next electoral event regarding the future of the country. The state is determined more than ever to involve civil society as an integral part that will act in coordination with the public authorities for the success of the next presidential elections on September 7th. We have a responsibility towards our society and our country. We must vote massively on September 7th. We have carried out awareness campaign among the inhabitants of Burj Al Kifan municipality regarding the importance of participating massively in the next presidential elections, and you have also noticed that people are very receptive, particularly our young people who are now engaged and convinced that the long-awaited change will only happen through voting. The new Algeria, which has made civil society and youth the fundamental pillars of its construction, will continue its edifying projects with the consecration of a participatory approach at the central and local levels, particularly in terms of taking charge of the daily concerns of citizens.
Algeria, amid a meeting of the UNSC Counter-Terrorism Committee, stressed that the crucial importance of regional cooperation and institution building in tackling the growing threat of terrorism on the African continent. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Ammar bin Jama, praised Nigeria's initiative embodied in the Abuja Declaration and which considered a valuable frame of reference to guide future actions. Bin Jama also suggested exploring the development of concrete follow-up mechanisms and financing strategies to revive the ambitions set out in the Abuja Declaration, while hoping for a summit of African heads of state on this issue to be held in the near future. The ambassador shed the light on Algeria's efforts in the fight against terrorism while reaffirming Algeria's unwavering commitment to regional cooperation against terrorism, stressing the importance of open and constructive dialogue between all partners. On the international scene now, and in the occupied Palestinian territories, recent attacks targeted the center of the besieged Strip, targeting family homes and residential buildings that house displaced Palestinians. Since dawn on Saturday, at least 34 people have been killed, including 15 members of one Palestinian family killed by a Zionist air raid on Azwaida. And Morocco is facing intense social crises. The Makhzen is totally disconnected from reality. A situation marked with soaring prices, water crisis and widespread corruption. The democratic labor organizations, for their part, are calling for urgent reforms in the country, where its leaders have turned a deaf ear a long time ago. Rania Bahri reports.
The multiple social crises that are shaking the Makhzen are not new, but rather a matter of a decade. The water crisis, which has recently taken on worrying dimensions, has been compounded by a deep social crisis marked by raising prices, especially for basic necessities. A situation denounced by the Democratic Organization of Labor, which recently published a worrying report highlighting the worsening inequality and the rise in poverty in Morocco. The Democratic Organization of Labor criticized the failed management of the Makhzen, which leaves a large part of the population in a situation of extreme vulnerability. The other scourge denounced by the Democratic Organization of Labor is none other than the rampant corruption that enriches a minority at the expense of the majority of citizens. The situation, characterized by a high unemployment rate, especially among graduates, threatens the country's social cohesion. The chaos reached its peak after the decision to set the age of entry to the education recruitment competitions at 30 years, which is an unfair measure that only serves to amplify the despair of young Moroccans. In the face of this crisis, the Democratic Action Organization calls for urgent reforms, such as indexing salaries and pensions to inflation, as well as reviewing the tax system and the unified social registry. The Democratic Action Organization report also warned of a draft law that threatens the right to strike. This approach aims primarily to restrict this fundamental practice and silence social protest, thus hindering the only means of expressing opinion for millions of Moroccans. Morocco is thus sinking into the increasingly serious social crisis with devastating consequences.
Sports now wanted to be wrap up our edition with the joyful atmosphere and the return of the Olympic champion Iman Khalif to her hometown Tiaret, where she was warmly welcomed. An official and popular tribute was reserved to the Algerian gold medal boxer. Iman Khalif was also honored by the local authorities. The celebration of Iman's return lasted until late at night. And that was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.